And we're live. Vinny, we're live.
Okay.
Oh, hi. We didn't see you there.
Yeah. Oh, hey, you.
Hey.
Hey, girl. Okay, folks, get ready. All right. Dr. Kate was great, and I really loved. She was talking about the seed oils and everything. That was a great presentation. I always love Kate Shanahan, and go check out everything she has. That second book she has out, just go get that. Speaking of people with books, this woman can't stop writing books. She's been my co-host on the podcast now for 1 gazillion years.
It's true. This is true.
She is so tired and sick of me. And by the way, the kitchen she's in right now, are you where? No, Anna,
I'm in Santa Ynez right now.
Okay.
This is the new kitchen.
I was like, wait a minute. That doesn't look like the kitchen where we started.
No.
Because I would go over to Anna's house and we would do podcasts on Sunday. This woman gave up her Sundays. Her husband and her kid would look at me funny when I would walk in. I was like, why is he here again? And we would sit there and she would make me some espresso and I would just sit there and go, Anna, you got to cook. I mean, what you make just off the cuff is the greatest stuff in the world. And
Thanks,
she pulled it off. And I mean, your book, Eat Happy, was a tour de force. I don't even know what that means, but it was that. And not to mention the second book, Eat Happy Too. EOO. Anna, I'm going to just leave it to you because I see some meat there that needs some cooking. But
there's
before
multiple meats.
She's going to be making meats with an S on it. But Anna, before I let you go, folks, if you want to get the stuff behind me, the ultra fat, you can go to NSNG Foods with an S, FOODS.com. NSNGfoods.com. If you want to save 20% during this thing that we're doing today and tomorrow, this summit, you can save 20% by putting in the word summit, SUMMIT. Summit will get you 20% off the new product, the ultra fat. Without any further ado, folks, she's the best voice in podcast radio working now or anytime in the history of podcasting. Now you get to watch her whip it up in the kitchen. I'm talking about the beautiful Anna Vocino.
Hi, everybody. I am so glad to be here. Thank you, Vinny. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, the entire NSNG cast and crew. I'm very excited to be here. Lauren is just off camera figuring out lighting. So if you see things moving around, this is the new kitchen that I've been very excited to shoot from. It is not quite ready yet. So we have a little angle thing happening now, but I think you could see everything that's going on today. We are going to make a brand new recipe that I wrote special for you guys. It's now up at my blog at annavocino.com. It is a spaghetti squash bolognese bake. And then we're also going to make some pan steak au poivre, which that recipe is an Eat Happy too. And last night we launched the Marinara sales page. For those of you who listen to the podcast, you know I have been working for about 2 years to develop my recipe, my marinara recipe, into a jarred marinara with no sugar added, good oil. In fact, it's made with Villa Capelli olive oil. I notice how I put them in the background there. And so you can go to eathappykitchen.com and sign up for that. Pre-order your marinara. Let's get started. So the first thing I did for the bake was preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Now, I took the liberty, since we don't have time to cook a spaghetti squash, I actually pre-cooked this last night. And sometimes you can do that because spaghetti squash, first of all, you have to microwave it for a couple of minutes just to make it soft enough to split it evenly into halves. I would not try to cut open a spaghetti squash without having softened it first, because you could cut off a digit. And I don't want that to happen. So I basically cut this in half, scooped and discarded the seeds, baked it at 350 for about 40 to 45 minutes. And then you scoop out the insides. And what happens when it cooks is it releases a lot of water. There, I said it for you, Craig. And I have drained off the excess water, but I might pat it dry again. Oh, good. The dog is barking in the background. Now it's a food demo, but we're going to set that aside for now. Preheat the oven to 350 because we're going to cook the thing. That's cool. She can just bark. Everything's fine. But first I want to season these steaks. Can we see things? This is the thing. Eventually we are going to have an overhead camera. We are going to have some window treatments in the back, so we're able to light this whole thing. I am going to pepper and salt these steaks really well. Shout out to my friends at Redmond Real Salt. Love those guys. I like to oversalt. Don't salt, oversalt when it comes to meats. I'm not grilling these today because we're cooking indoors, but I would grill them. Actually, these are so thin. These are a good like weeknight steak because I know there's a lot of you guys who like to eat a lot of red meat, myself included in that. Hold on, there's a lot of. Oh, just call it. Okay. Okay. A lot of comments. I don't know. I'm going to look at the comments at the end. So save questions to the end because we are going to have a 10-minute Q&A at the end. I just seasoned these two little guys. They're very thin. They're like a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thin little ribeyes, boneless ribeyes. And I'm going to set this aside for now. We're going to come back to these. We're going to make these while the other stuff is cooking. Let's get back to the bake. This bake, I use grass-fed ground beef. And I always say, buy whatever meats that you can that are available and economically affordable. So I don't care if you use grass-fed or conventional. If I have access to grass-fed, I'm going to get it because I'm into that kind of thing. I'm sure there's actually going to be people talking about the difference between grass-fed and conventional, but not everybody can. It's not always economically available, and it's not always available in every grocery store. So just buy the meat that is available to you and affordable to you. So that's our happy medium. Let's start with some Villa Capelli olive oil. And the idea with a bake is that you kind of pre-prep everything and then throw it in a nice casserole dish and then bake it. And then you just have like a one-pot dish for everybody to eat. So I put a little bit of everything in here. Where am I? Still trying to figure out these camera angles. I'm going to start this stove, which, by the way, is way more powerful and strong than my other stove. So I have to account for that. That's another thing. In recipe writing, you want to give cook times, but then everybody has different strengths of stove. Sometimes your oven doesn't work correctly or it's 50 degrees over or under. So I always try to give visual cues. So we want to heat this oil up in this pan. There we go. Till it is shimmering. And we're going to start with 1 onion. I used about a medium sweet onion diced. And I took the liberty of pre-prepping stuff because we don't have a ton of time. This is one of those recipes that there's a lot of like chopping and cooking at first, but if you have it all ready to go, you can throw it all in and it actually is pretty easy. So let's start with let's turn that flame up and start to get this onion softening here. I don't have the right utensils. See, this way I can peek over here. There's a light right there. See that? Hey, somebody says hey to me. I say, hey back. This is a bolognese, and at the heart of a bolognese, you got the flavor profiles, right? You have what's called your aromatics. And we start with the onion and the olive oil, and then after that starts to soften, I grated about 3 or 4 baby carrots. It's about 2 tablespoons of baby carrots. Now, I just dumped it. Just dump it out. If y'all don't want to have carrots, that is fine. Carrots are a really easy way to add a little bit of sweetness and mellowness to an acidic sauce. So again, optional. If you don't want to have the extra carbs, that is totally fine. I like to put them in there for a little flavor. It cooks down. I don't think that 2 or 3 baby carrots is the end of the world. Actually, I think I did 4 baby carrots for that much. They were really small baby carrots though. That's the other thing. Baby carrots come in all different sizes. So I try to give also a measurement. So this should be about 2 to 3 tablespoons of baby carrots. You can kind of start to hear these onions sizzling. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and add those in. And let's get this stuff soft, Let's start to get it real soft. Now, my tomato basil marinara, I would just put a whole jar in here, but we don't have it available yet. So that's why it's up for pre-sale. You guys can go get it, and then we're going to manufacture it, and it will ship out sometime around August 11th is when we're expected to ship out the shipments. And if you, I think there's all kind of deals on the site because the shipping is expensive. Turns out it's very expensive to ship heavy jars of marinara across the country. Who knew? But as soon as we can, we're going to get into grocery stores. Hopefully we'll do that by the beginning of 2021. How's everybody doing? Is everybody shut in like we are in California? We're still pretty much shut in. So I'm wondering how that's going. This is getting nice and soft. I kind of like to let onions go for like 4 to 5 minutes to get it soft, but you also don't want to burn the carrots or get them bitter or anything. So there's that. I've already made a mess. That's not a surprise for those of you who know me and watch my stuff. I like to make a mess. Okay. Now, notice how I'm not adding any spices yet. What I would do if I weren't doing a cooking demo is I would then add a pound or two of raw grass-fed ground beef. You could also do this with chicken. You could do it with ground pork. It would be good with any protein, really. Maybe not fish. And but for the sake of it being shorter, I have a pound. I have not seasoned this. I just pre-browned it and I drained it. Again, the draining comes up for discussion. People want to know, do I really have to drain stuff? And you don't if you don't mind a wetter bake or a greasier bake. I like to drain stuff. But let's go ahead and pour that on there as if we have already cooked it. It's sizzling nice now. Look at this. This is sizzling real nice. We're going to mix all that together. And at the point that you have browned the ground beef and drained it and poured it back into the pan, so we're going to get spicy with it. What I have in here, and again, this whole recipe, you don't have to write it down. The whole recipe is at annavocino.com. Measurements, yada, 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 a little printable thing. We've got salt, garlic powder, onion powder, dried thyme, dried oregano. And my secret that I like to do with any dried herb is I like to pulverize it in my hands or in my fingers or in the palm of my hand because it releases what's left of the... Ooh, yes. These are going now. So you see that's all in there. Let's get it nice and flavored. I'm going to turn this heat down a little bit because you can caramelize the onions a little bit, but you really don't want them to burn because you don't want that to be like the overwhelming flavor profile of all this. Oh my gosh, it's starting to smell so good once you put those spices in there. And it might seem like a lot of spice, but we have a lot of vegetable to add in here, and vegetables have a tendency to suck up and eat the spice. So you want to make sure it's seasoned up. Now, the next step is if I had the marinara jar, I'd go plop and put it in there. But I don't, so I'm going to do 2 cans of diced tomatoes. Pro tip, check your labels every single time you go to the grocery store that they haven't added any sugar or anything weird to your canned tomatoes. So we're going to put that in there. That's nice and sizzly. I am like a stickler for stuff that's left over. I like to pour it out. I don't like to waste food. Ooh, that's real sizzly. Let's mix that in. You know, it's looking almost like sloppy joes at this point. And by the way, you don't have to use diced tomatoes if you don't like diced tomatoes. I like a half and half mixture. Oh, let's get this tomato paste in there. That's about 2 tablespoons, heaping tablespoons worth. Throw that over there. Get that mixed in evenly. Oh, I can hear somebody chatting. This is a pretty good looking bolognese. Now, in a minute, those tomatoes will let off some water and it'll start to bubble, toil and trouble. And the vegetable that I've chosen to include are Brussels sprouts, and I cut them to like 1/2 inch little chunks because Brussels sprouts take a while to soften. So I'm going to put those in there. And that's probably the most time-consuming thing. You could pre-steam them if you wanted to in the microwave. I'm going to put these in here. And then we just literally let this simmer. Oh, I forgot the basil leaves. Hold on. You know I love a fresh basil. Basil is one of those ones that I rarely use as a dried herb because, at least in California, they're just so available. I'm kind of burying the Brussels sprouts in there so they get cooked a little more quickly. I always say 7 to 10 basil leaves. I don't know why. That just seems to yield the amount that I like. There we go. This is basil that's just sitting on the table. It's just table basil. Let's see. 1 more. Great. I'm sure somebody counted and they're like, you didn't really do 7 to 10. You did 11. Oh, that was the sound of the oven preheated. I stacked them. I roll them up. And let's see if we can see this here. And I just slice them into what's called a chiffonade. which is just a fancy way of saying long ribbons. And then I chop those long ribbons. Yeah, we should be good to go. Just throw those in there. Basil just adds some freshness. By the way, I love fresh basil so much that in the Eat Happy Kitchen marinara, I did not like the dried basil. That was an interesting development that I was not happy with. And so we went back to sourcing fresh basil. And again, these are like super fresh ingredients. They don't come cheap. So that's where we are with that. And I'm very excited about it. You guys are going to love it. All right, let's turn this down to simmer low and let it simmer for a little while. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let that happen on the back burner. Because our next step is we're going to add in some cheese and cream, take it off the heat, fold in the spaghetti squash, put it all in the pan and bake it, which we won't have time to do on air. By the way, I set a timer to make sure we get to Q&A. So let me turn on the back burner. That simmer there. You can take a look at that. This burner is still on. Let me get the steak pan. Okay, here's a secret with steaks. If you look at these little guys, they're little. I call them lunchtime steaks because like I would eat that for lunch, but I don't. And then I would make 2 more for dinner. But I want you guys to see that. To me, there's some fat on there, but it's not huge. And I'm using a larger pan. I don't have my cast iron. I don't have this kitchen fully stocked yet, but we'll get there. I have not moved in. Let me turn the heat up high. I want to get that high. I will, if I feel like there's not enough marbled fat on my steaks, I will start this pan with some olive oil or some butter, and I'll start the steaks that way, just to get it really rendered and fatty and delicious. So let's go ahead and do that. This one's going to be a dairy-free one. This one has dairy. This one's going to be dairy-free. Just to show you guys, because I know there's some of you out there that don't like the dairy. I love dairy. I don't tolerate it that well, so I'm not supposed to have it. But let's see. Let's get this nice and hot. I'm going to move these basil leaves out of the way. I don't like a mess. I clean up as I go along. That's just how I roll. Oh, I got a meat mallet, you guys, for crushing nuts. Let's see. When that plate gets hot enough, I'm going to take about a tablespoon of peppercorns. Oh, crap. Don't tell me I can't. Oh, this is going to be me. Lauren. Oh, he's right there. Can you open this pepper for me? I should have pre-opened it. I can't do it. Oh, God. Oh, God. I need those peppercorns out of there. If not, I guess I'll just...
Like take the whole thing off?
Yeah. Can you do it? I know. It's hard.
Hold on.
This is like...
I'm showing my weakness.
Oh, he did it. Thank you. Great. See, always have a strong guy right off camera to help you out. Lauren Tarquinio, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, exactly. He's going to have a nice lunch when this is all over with.
This happens every morning. What are you talking about?
It actually does. He's standing there with crumbs in his hand, like I can't throw it away. Okay, so I'm going to use this. Actually, I'm going to use the little pointy end of the meat mallet, and I'm going to crush. I like a peppercorn in my steak au poivre. Poivre is the French word for pepper. So usually this is made with dairy, and you can make it with dairy, and that is not a problem. Heavy cream and coconut cream with no added sugar can be used interchangeably when you're making a creamy sauce. Oh, yeah, that's good. Okay, that's good. We did that. I can see my phone, and I see that people are texting me, and I can't look at it. And I know y'all are on the thing, and I can't look at it, and I want to look at it. But thank you for your texts. And okay. Also, my coconut cream trick. Not for this, but if you ever need just the solid coconut cream and you don't want the liquid that's in the middle, you'll want to put this in the fridge for about 20 minutes to forever. And then when you open it, you poke a hole in the top, pour off the coconut water, and then you just are left with the cream. But for this one, we can have a little bit of the liquid in there. So let me throw that out. And let's, oh yeah. Wait a minute. Hold on. I put it on the wrong setting. Now it's hot. Okay, great. Just want to make sure these are ready to go. Nope, it's not quite hot enough because I didn't let it get hot enough. All right. Well, it'll start. It'll start when it starts. It'll start to sizzle in a minute. I'm going to stir. There it goes. There it goes. It's sizzling. I'm going to stir this back one. The Brussels are starting to get softer. Great. Now, we wait for these steaks to cook. What's going on over there? For the marinara, I did for the NSNG Foods. Yes, there's a coupon for the marinara. It is, I can't remember. Todd, if you're on and you want to put that in, that would be great. People who signed up early for the marinara definitely have the coupon. But you guys on the NSNG Summit will also get the coupon if Todd is on there and can type it in. Hey, yeah, I'm making the meat sizzle, baby. Ooh, it's
Eat Happy 20.
Eat Happy 20? Hell yeah. Let's get some tongs. These are so thin, I would do, what, 2 to 3 minutes per side at the most. Maybe 1 minute. Maybe just sear it. If it's Wagyu, 1 minute. 1 minute. But this is definitely not Wagyu. I'm flipping it. Ooh, that's a mess. So we're going to do these 2 to 3 minutes per side, put it on a plate, and then we'll do the little au poivre cream sauce. Thank you, Amy. Eat Happy 20. And that coupon is good one time, so maximize your order. One time, and it's only good through August 4th. For the people who pre-order the marinara, because then we have to go back to regular price. Very excited about that. Let me stir these guys up. Oh, white pepper. Okay, this is getting good. Maybe I overshot my boundary here, shot my wad by doing too many dishes, but I'm excited. Okay, I feel good about this because I hate overcooked steaks. Let's put those there. And then let's take a tablespoon of Dijon. This is going to make such a delicious savory. By the way, Dijon is a perfect Dijon is a perfect flavor enhancer. So if you feel like this tastes boring, put some Dijon in there. You got the vinegar, you got the mustard. It's 2 tablespoons of coconut cream. I'm going to do a little extra of the really creamy part. And peppercorns. Let's get a new spatula. Oh, it smells so good. It smells so nice and creamy. Oh, I forgot water. Look, I said water. There we go. Take that out. Don't ever use a whisk on a nonstick pan. Or if you do, don't do it in my house. Okay, this looks gorgeous. So it's like a kind of creamy sauce there. Now, what I like to do is dredge these steaks back in the sauce. So they're going to cook like another minute. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. That is gorgeous. Again, you can do it with heavy cream. You don't have to use coconut cream. Let's turn off the heat on that. Made a mess. Cleaning up my mess. And you just serve it for that extra sauce on the top. What I would do is you have a few extra little peppercorns. Just let's put that on there. And we'll put that right there in the, well, there's a little foreground. And look at those beautiful steak au poivres. Now, it's been a few minutes on these guys. We're going to remove the heat. Again, so it's got a little It's like Sloppy Joe with, but with like an Italian flavor profile. Yes, those, what are it called? How you say Brussels sprouts are getting nice and soft. Let's see, how much time do I have left? 16 minutes. Perfect. And then we'll do Q&A. I want to, okay, yes. Couple of things. Actually, let's do the cream first. We're going to do regular heavy whipping cream in this because we're putting full, this is the full-on dairy dish, this bolognese bake. So let's do 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Do you see what I did there? I actually measured. I don't really measure when I'm not recipe writing. That's just me. Where's my, how did I lose my, why am I losing? Oh, it's right here. You guys. Okay, so we're going to like get this. I always pour the heavy cream in after it's done on the heat because I don't want the cream to curdle. That would be nasty. So we're getting that cream in there. And my favorite part, this is a little over a cup of grated Fontina cheese. I use this microplane grater and the skinny microplane grater for almost everything because I just like the texture of a finely grated cheese. It seems to melt more evenly within the dish. I grated the carrots with this. I grate lemon zest with this. This microplane it's amazing. Anything, by the way, everything you see that I'm using is at annavocino.com. If you click on Anna's Kitchen, I put the links to the exact things, puts a little coal on the fire, you know, all that stuff. So I'm going to do about half of this cheese. And the reason why I chose Fontina and not mozzarella is because I wanted to change it up a little bit. And Fontina melts really well without getting like stretchy gooey. So I'm going to save half of that for the top. Plus I've got about 1/3 cup of freshly grated Parmesan for the top as well. Parmesan. How do you guys say it? I don't know. Let's mix this in. And it's okay if it's not perfectly evenly mixed in. By the way, this is, when I say fold, this is what I mean by folding. So you're not over stirring it. You're just gently folding stuff in. And it's okay if you don't evenly fold it in, like I was saying, because sometimes it's fun to get a little pocket of cheese. The only thing you want to make sure of is that the Brussels are cooked all the way through, which also they'll continue to cook for a half an hour to 40 minutes in the oven because you have this delicious bolognese and the spaghetti squash is well cooked. And then if you have like a raw Brussels in there, to me, I don't like the mouthfeel of that. So I don't know if you can see this Fontina is kind of getting it like melty, stringy, but not stretchy like mozzarella. So that's why I chose that. But if you don't have access to Fontina, you can definitely use mozzarella. So the final step is adding in this beautifully cooked, mine cooked. Here's the thing, spaghetti squash vary in size. So you could get a really big one because that's all they have at the store. You could get a really small one and you want to do 2. This is about a medium-sized spaghetti squash. And when I took all of the shreds, the spaghetti strands out of it, it was like piled high. Well, then it kind of releases the water and kind of sinks back down. So I took my hand and I strained it over the sink. So it's already pretty. Where are my paper towels, you guys? Be right back. Be right back. But I always say as an extra step, whenever you're working with spaghetti squash, zucchini, eggplant, and sometimes even yellow squash. I don't have a lot of, and Eat Happy 2 have a great yellow squash. And actually 2. There's the zucchini and yellow squash tian, which is a casserole. And then there's, see, I'm pressing on there and I'm getting some wetness. Not that it has to be completely bone dry. It's not like when you work with cauliflower and you're making a cauliflower crust and it really does need to be dried out. I just don't want the bake to come out of the oven and be soupy, right? Are you guys with me on that? Give me a hell yeah if you don't want anything soupy. And that was cheap pandering, and I'm very sorry that I said that. But hell yeahs are nice. I do appreciate that. If you want to, If you find that the spaghetti squash strands are too long, you're welcome to take a knife before you put it in and kind of give them a little chop. So it's more like the length of a, penne or a macaroni. But the reason why I invented this is because I used to have a regular spaghetti pasta bake dish as a kid that we would eat. And so I'm replicating that. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So I wanted the longer strands in there because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's replicating spaghetti, and that's kind of fun. I'm sure Vinny will talk about this, but usually with NSNG, when people go NSNG, they go through different stages. And one of the first stages is, well, I have to replicate everything that I eat on the standard American diet, but with grain-free and sugar-free alternatives. And there are recipes in the book for that. And then there's kind of like this middle ground where you're making things like this, or maybe this is like a Sunday dish, or like you're going to make one thing that feeds everybody and everybody's happy about it. And then there's the stage when people move on to just having steak and veg, or maybe just steak. A lot of y'all are carnivore now. So I try to give a bunch of options in the book. And I think I need some tongs help. I'm glad I have this large pan. If you don't have a large pan like this, I highly recommend getting one. Or if you have a Le Creuset, you can use that, like a big Dutch oven. It's a Dutch oven. You didn't think that I wasn't going to make some childish references in this food demo. You're sorely mistaken. Okay, so this looks right now like it's really well mixed. And I have made a huge mess. And that's okay. It's not okay. I don't like a mess. I like to clean it up. I just dropped onion on my foot. By the way, I cook barefoot because we don't wear shoes in the house. So I am not pregnant, but I am barefoot when I make a meal for my family. So there's that. Make sure this guy's gotten some crumbs in it. Look at this is a Le Creuset 10 by 13. I said 9 by 12 in the recipe that I wrote up because 9 by 12 is a more common measurement of a casserole dish. But I love the enamel, but I also love Pyrex. Those are the two things I recommend. I'm not a huge fan of using a metal roasting pan for things like this because the cleanup is not as easy. When you're talking about melted cheese sticking to things, like I said, I like things to be clean. I like to clean it up. Oh my God, I can barely lift this. Jeez. Hold on, let me plop it in there without making a huge mess. Bear with me. My grip strength is for shit. I need to do some Vinny exercises. Okay. There it is. You guys can see that. Let's use a spatula to smooth it down. Let me get a new one. I need a new one. All those are dirty. Oh, see, there's some extra spaghetti squash that's not quite mixed in. That's how you find out if you haven't mixed it up well. And it's looking so gorgeous. And I love meals like this that has onion, Brussels sprout, and spaghetti squash. You get your veg. You get your savoriness with the cheese and the tomato. You get your beef in there. And now, if you look, this is why I would actually use 2 pounds of beef. I only use 1 pound of beef. You could use 2 pounds of beef for that and really beef this thing up. Or you could use shredded chicken, pork, or sausage would be great in this. But here's just the basics. So I'm making this nice and smooth, pretty and smooth. And then the easiest thing, you just put more fontina on the top. Oh gosh, it does stick together. Don't do that. Well, maybe it'll be pockets of cheese on the top then. Oh, crap. How's that? I'm going to have a lot of cleanup here. Do you think I should make Lauren clean it up? Lauren, do you want to clean up all these dishes after this? He said, no, let's throw them out. Sounds good to me. Wouldn't that be fun to be so rich that you could just like throw out the dishes? I know it's completely wasteful and I'm not advocating being wasteful, but I just think it'd be really fun. I think it'd be really fun to like throw out towels and dishes and just be like, I don't care. Give me new ones. Okay, we are done. I'm adding the Parmesan on here. There's some cheese left in here. By the way, my recipes are very forgiving. If you want to add more cheese, more meat, more veg, or less cheese, dairy-free cheese, less veg, less meat. I don't know why you do less meat. Do more meat, less veg. I mean, let's be honest. This is going to go in the oven. I'm going to put it in there for about 30 to 40 minutes at 350, and it's going to get nice and bubbly. I'll let it brown kind of. Ooh, it's warm from the stuff I just cooked. I'm going to put this in the oven. Oh, wait, I can't put it in the oven because there's a light right there. Hold on. Excuse me, light. This is where I wish I had an overhead camera so you could see it. However, I don't have like that big reveal that they have on food shows. Put that in first. I don't have that big reveal that they have on food shows because we don't have the whole camera set up, but it's going to be really good. And if you want to see the finished product, go to annavocino.com and you will see everything there. And now it's 10:35. Perfect. We have time for questions. Actually, let me set my timer because, you know, I'm going to set it for 40 minutes and we will see. Oh, wait, you know what I can do? Eat some damn steak. Where's the steak knife? Where's the knife? Oh, God, I don't know where anything is in this kitchen, you guys. Let me get a fork. And oh, it's cooked perfectly. It's like medium rare. If you guys like medium rare, you can cook it more, certainly. Oh, I've been known to cut bites that are way too big, so I haven't eaten anything yet today, so. That's perfect, medium rare, and there's crunch from the peppercorns, which to me is incredible. And it shouldn't need any more salt than how you originally salted it if you salted it well enough. So Lauren is standing just right off camera. And we use coconut cream with this. And the coconutty taste cooks off. You can use heavy cream. Not to worry. I want to do a Q&A with you guys, but I want to keep eating it. Okay. Here, let me hand that to Lauren. If you're going to eat off camera, though, you're literally eating right behind the microphone. I'm sending him to the other room to eat his. Oh, now you're eating even closer to the microphone. All right. Let's do some Q&A. I'm just trying to figure out how to do that so I can see the computer. How about this? This is a hot stove. I don't really want to lean over the. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Anna, I'm coming back in. I can help you with the questions because I can see them all.
Oh, good. Okay, well then I'll go back to. Thank you.
Yeah, go back there, and I can feed you the questions because I can see them all right here.
That's amazing, Andy. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm thirsty after all that cooking.
Yeah. My camera may drop in and out. I'm having some issues with that. So if it does, you'll still be able to hear me. So we're going to start at the top with the ones with the most votes on the questions.
Oh, they get to vote on the questions?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. What brand of coconut cream do you stand by?
I don't stand by any particular brand, and that is a very good question. And it brings me back to the thing I said about the canned tomatoes earlier, which is check the label. Every grocery store seems to have a different brand. In fact, this one is called Let's Do Organic. Never heard of it before. Let's do organic. Although it's saying organic to me is not the number one thing. The number one thing is when I check the label, it has organic coconut cream, organic coconut filtered water. Perfect. This actually is a really good brand. I will now look for this because it doesn't have the carrageenan and the other stuff, which sometimes you have to deal with because you can't find anything else at the grocery store. But check labels. And instead of looking for a brand, because brands can also change their formulations, instead of looking for a brand, look to make sure that it doesn't have added sugar. Same thing with the tomatoes. And the marinara will not have added sugar. Just to be clear. We don't do that. Right, Andy?
Right, of course. Next question. What can you add to your spaghetti sauce recipe to thicken it without adding carbs? Or do you just cook it longer?
Well, I guess I'm confused because a marinara is a marinara and it's not supposed to be like a thick gravy. If you're pureeing it, maybe, yeah, I would just reduce it. If you're pureeing it, you want like a really thick sauce. I mean, you're cooking it down because you want a really thick, like even like a jarred sauce, like a ragu or a prego isn't particularly thick. And pizza sauces, by the way, are just a thicker marinara. That's all it is. So I use regular marinara. What?
It's really good.
Isn't it good?
If it's not dairy,
yeah,
it tastes great.
Right?
And even there's a slight hint of coconut, which I don't really like, but it really works.
Oh, good.
Honey, that's really great.
Oh, nice.
Sorry.
Did you see that? Now we have it on camera for 2,000 of my close friends, and my husband just complimented me. So
I love it.
That happened for real.
Next question. Do you have a good NSNG bread or tortilla recipe?
Okay, the tortilla thing, I'm just going to put the kibosh on and say, when I was speaking earlier about transitional foods and recipes, okay, but let me say this. Eventually, you're going to get off tortillas. Before that happens, you can make the almond flour pita chips in the first book, the rosemary thyme pita chips in the second book, and those will serve as like tortilla chips if you're doing guacamole or whatever. And then eventually you'll probably just get off that and just eat the guacamole with a spoon. I don't want to scare you. If you're new to NSNG, I don't want to scare you off, but that's kind of the natural progression of things that happens. An actual tortilla of wrapping things, I don't have a particular recipe because I've not found something that really works for me, because a lot of the egg yolk, beaten egg white / put a tablespoon of arrowroot and some other things and almond flour don't really hold up as a tortilla. They'll work as a cloud bread, which if you Google cloud bread, you'll see tons of recipes for that. I tried it once and I was like eating air. It wasn't satisfying for me, so I didn't move on with that exploration. But tortillas, you could do a cheese disc if you can tolerate dairy, which is basically just put cheese on some wax paper, microwave it, and then hang it, put a pencil on 2 cups, and then hang your cheese disc over it, and it will harden and cool off in the shape of a taco shell. So you could do that. People have been posting in my Facebook group about the Jicama Wraps from Trader Joe's. Those look good. I have not tried them yet, but people have been using those. They basically have sliced jicama super thin, and you can use that as a wrap. In fact, I love and miss I eat a lot of Vietnamese food because one of my best friends is Vietnamese and his mom would cook for us all the time. So I miss having Vietnamese spring rolls. And in fact, that's the Vietnamese egg roll in a bowl is based on what his mom used to make for us, but she would do it fried. So I would be curious to try the Jicama Wraps with some ground pork, some mint, some lemongrass, and some carrots just in there, and try a little Vietnamese spring roll. No dipping sauce though, no.
Next question. And this is from, it doesn't even say who it is. What is the shelf life of the marinara sauce?
Oh gosh, that is a really good question. Let me find out exactly. It is shelf stable, so it will last for a while, and that's why you add the tomatoes come with their organic tomatoes from I can never say it. He corrects me all the time. David Muir Glenn. I don't know why I cannot. Muir. M-U-I-R is Muir. Yeah. Okay, thank you. He literally tells me that all the time, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute in my brain. The tomatoes we have sourced the San Marzano and Romas from Muir Glen. That was really hard for me to just say that just now, and I literally speak for a living. That's the one word I can't say. And water. And they have citric acid in them, which is a form of vitamin C, which is what keeps tomatoes shelf stable because they're highly acidic. So you add a different kind of acid to keep them shelf stable. But I'll find out exactly and put that information on the website. Todd, if you're watching, put that on your to-do list.
Next question. This is from Drew. Can you do zucchini noodles instead of the spaghetti squash in the bake?
Absolutely, you 100% can. The only reason I did spaghetti squash is because I like, again, I'm replicating the spaghetti bake that I used to have as a kid. But you could do zucchini noodles, and I just feel like I've done a zillion recipes with zucchini noodles, so I wanted to change it up and use zucchini squash. I would say you definitely need to sweat. You don't need to pre-cook zucchini. You could just spiralize it, set it out on a towel or paper towels or whatever, salt it really well, let it sit while you're doing a bunch of other things, and then really pat it dry, because zucchini, even more than spaghetti squash, will give off a lot of water. So do that before you put it in.
Yeah. Scott wants to know what your man's favorite Eat Happy NSNG breakfast is.
Oh, you know what's funny is he makes most of the breakfast around here. And what he does is he takes whatever leftover veg we have, and then if we don't have any leftover veg, he'll just take a shallot and some vegetables, saute it first, throw a scramble on there. And in fact, in the second book, the jalapeno cheddar leek scramble is his recipe. There's Lauren's Anthony Bourdain's, which is a version of an Anthony Bourdain recipe that he's made for me. And he makes the breakfast. He's the breakfast guy. I often don't eat breakfast, but when I do, he's made it. And it's whatever's left over, add some eggs, turn it into a hash. And if you have bacon or sausage, throw that in there too.
Great. Paul wants to know what brand of pan you're using.
What brand of what?
Pan.
Oh, pan. This is a Le Creuset non-stick that it also has a lid. That's at my site. If you AnnaVocino.com, click Anna's Kitchen. These are all-clad, what's it called, non-stick. I believe they're it sounds like H1N1 virus is what the SKU sounds like. But I've probably bought so many of these over the past 20 years. I love these pans. They come in 12, 10, and 8-inch. And I use also, not Le Creuset, what's that other brand? Cuisinart stainless steel pan. And I have I like ones that are shaped like this because I have a tendency to make one pot dishes. And I want to be able to fit a lot of stuff in there without it overflowing or making a mess.
Yeah. Jamie would like to know, says, I've been making basil macadamia nut pesto to substitute for red sauce since I can't tolerate tomatoes.
Yeah.
Do you have any other suggestions that I could substitute with?
Yeah, I mean, if you have to avoid nightshades, if you want to make other sauces, there's a, I don't know if it's just tomatoes or all nightshades, because that would include peppers and red peppers and eggplant as well. But if you are able to tolerate red peppers or green peppers, I would highly recommend in Eat Happy 1, God, what is it called? It's like a spicy zucchini noodle recipe that has salami, red pepper, and then you top it with some pesto. I can't tolerate macadamia nuts. I'm highly allergic to them. But if you wanted to change it up, you could use walnuts, you can use pine nuts, you can use pecans, you can use any kind of nut in the pesto, or you can make the zhug that's in the second book, which is an Israeli pesto that has some spice to it, and it uses a lot of cilantro and parsley. You can make a chimichurri. There's all sorts of things you can do, and then you can make things more saucy. You could do a pesto, but then add some cream to it, and that's just, oh God! Especially when you have summer basil and you add a little cream to your pesto and turn that into a sauce, it's wonderful. You can chop up sun-dried tomatoes. Villa Capelli has sun-dried tomato spread. So I always love, I remember that fancy hors d'oeuvre of baked brie that they used to do in the 80s and 90s. It was baked brie, and it had a layer of like sun-dried tomato paste and a layer of goat cheese and then a layer of pesto. I know that that's not a sauce, and I didn't answer your question, but I just thought of that, and I wanted to share the image with you guys. This is so good. It's so good, but without the puff pastry around it. Of course.
All right, we have a question from Caitlin who wants to know if you can substitute coconut cream for the heavy cream in bolognese.
Absolutely. You absolutely can. And that's why I wanted to do two different kinds of dishes today to show that you can have the dairy full dish from a dairy eaters, and you could make a dairy-free dish from a dairy-free people. I cook the coconut milk off. I try to cook it off more. Or I use it, you know where I use it? Coconut milk, where you cannot tell the difference. The chicken tikka masala that's in the first book, and if you got the second book and have the bonus recipes, the Instant Pot butter chicken, coconut milk goes great in all those. Oh, and the chicken paprikash, I will thicken it with coconut milk. That's in the second book as well, and Eat Happy 2. And it's fun. If you're incorporating it into a recipe, into a bolognese, into anything that calls for a little bit of heavy cream to make it thicker and lighter, you could do that. You could make a vodka sauce. If you, again, wait, I don't know if this is the person who could tolerate tomato. Oh no, this is a different question. So if you have, let's say you have a jar of Eat Happy marinara, I don't know, maybe you have that. I would pour that in the pan, add a quarter to a third of a cup of heavy cream and a couple tablespoons of vodka, and you'll make a beautiful pink vodka sauce.
Beautiful. Well, that's all the time we have.
Great.
So thank you so much, Anna. That was amazing.
I'm so glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yeah. So everybody, we will be back in 40 minutes. We will be back at, what time is it? It's going to be at 2:30 Eastern time. We will be back with Dr. Benjamin Bickman. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a great session. Anna, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And we'll see y'all soon.
Yeah.